Welcome to this Sensolus tutorial session. Today we'll talk about API integration with the Sensolus platform. Let's first sketch a bit what could be the reasons why you would like to do API integration. Big picture, we see four reasons. The first reason is that there's data which you see in the platform reported by the trackers connected to your assets, which you would like to extract from the platform and integrate in your systems. The second reason is the reverse direction. There's data living within your ERP. Imagine it's the customer towards an asset is traveling and you would like to visualize that data too in the Sensolus platform. Reason number three is that there is a certain set of Sensolus platform configuration actions. Let's think about geozones, which you create for every customer you have, which you would like to automate, because your number of customers is large and it is a set which is dynamically changing. A last option is the integration of existing third-party devices, which you would like to see as well in the Sensolus platform. Now, this last option is a rather specialized topic and I would like to park it for a future session. Before we jump to the API mechanics, let's look at a couple of sample use cases to give you some ideas of what's possible. The first example is a case where the operator of the trackers and the assets wants to give the end user to which the shipment is being sent a warning when it's nearby, and he wants to give that user access to that tracker in the platform. Now, this session is not about all the security features of the Sensolus platform, which we'll leverage in this example. Now, let me just explain big picture which flow is happening. So the ERP system is through an API call informing the Sensolus platform what's the destination of the shipment. Now that destination is again forwarded to a little piece of integration code which, based on that destination information, will generate on the fly a geozone and a geozone insight alert to notify the end user when the asset is within that geographic circle. As a second step, the device is also put into a visibility filter to which the end user has access. The end result is user is notified when the asset is nearby, and from that moment onwards, he can also log into the Sensolus platform and follow the asset as it gets nearer to his own destination. A second example is a bit more elaborate. And so here we have a fleet of Sensolus trackers reporting data to the Sensolus platform. Now every location point is forwarded to an Azure cloud environment where it's also stored into a database. Now this specific customer has developed a very nice set of Power BI dashboards on top of that data, also mixing in data which doesn't come from the Sensolus platform. And finally, those Power BI dashboards are presented to the end user again through the Sensolus platform. I hope I've given you some ideas of what you can do. Let's now take a look at the actual API mechanics. One of the first questions which pops up when we're talking about APIs is what can you actually do and what can you retrieve? There I think we can be fairly short. In general, whatever you see can be extracted with an API, and whatever you can configure through the user interface can also be configured through the REST API. Now, let's look at the actual API description and possibilities. So to look at those, you go to the admin section, you scroll all the way down, and there we have the API docs section. We have a REST-based API where the encoding is all done in JSON. So you'll see here the catalog of API calls. It doesn't make too much sense to go through all of those, but the naming should speak for itself. And so every time you'll see the API call, the description, the schema definition of the payloads, of the return values, and a couple of example values. There's also a tryout button, and so you can go and play with the API directly within the UI. And so let me retrieve now the status of a particular device. And so we see that device, and the name is container serial. It has this color, it belongs to this organization, it has this subscription, etc., etc. How you leverage this REST API is totally your choice, and you can use the tools you're most comfortable with. What I want to point out is that we have an OpenAPI descriptor. It's a formal definition of the full API. This descriptor can be used to generate client layer libraries in your favorite programming language. We're using it quite frequently with Python, but there are many other possibilities as well. Now, what we talked about so far is the REST pull API. Now, in one of the examples I gave, we had a case where you want to retrieve or stay in sync with all data which comes to the Sensolus platform. And for such use case, the pull API is not the best way forward because you would need to continuously poll the system. And this is not something our systems would like, but it's also not very efficient on your side. Now, to overcome that, we also have a push mechanism through webhooks. And so what you do, and I have one configured here, is you configure a URL endpoint and which data type you would like to retrieve on that endpoint. Whenever data comes to our platform, we will immediately forward it to that endpoint. We support both HTTP-based endpoints, but we also support MQTT. And we have pre-integrated that both with Amazon MQTT connectors and Azure-based MQTT connectors. Now, let me go to that callback view. So you see here, what is the payload which has been sent to that other site. I've used here a freely available integration platform where we will see that data arriving. Now, we've designed it in such a way that the payloads of the push API and the payloads of the pull API are identical, which means that with very minimal changes, you can on your side both implement an on-request pull-based logic and have the same code deal with processing these bodies for push-based logic as well. In terms of authentication, everything is controlled with an API key. As you can see here, we give you a standard allocation of a number of calls per month. The key driver of this limitation is to make sure that if you have a scenario which would require an extraordinary amount of API calls, you would talk to us first. In that conversation, there are basically two options. Either we see that there is a more elegant or more efficient way to do it and there is no problem, or we acknowledge that what you do is indeed a very relevant scenario for your business, and then we just increase the volume. I think this gives you a quick overview of what's possible with the Sensolus API. You can find more information in the online documentation, and if you have any questions or you need some assistance, do not hesitate to get in touch with the team. Thanks for watching and see you again.